Hey, welcome! We live in a world that's always building, always growing, always changing. But what happens when that constant push for the future runs right into the echoes of our past? Today, we're going to dive right into that tension, the delicate balance between progress and preservation. It's a huge question, right? One that cities and countries have to deal with all the time. To build that new highway, or that dam, or that subway system, do we really have to tear down the very things that tell the story of who we are? Let's dig into that. All right, so first up, what is the core idea we're tackling? Is there always a price to pay for progress? And does that price have to be our own history?
Well, here's the most important point right here. Our cultural heritage isn't just a bunch of old buildings. It's what actually shapes our identity. But here's the good news. We don't always have to choose between the old and the new. As we're about to see from two amazing examples, it is absolutely possible for history and modern development to exist side by side.
Okay, now before we jump into our main stories, let's just quickly go over a few key words. Understanding this vocabulary is really going to help us appreciate the massive scale of what these people accomplished. Okay, so first, think about a nation's heritage, all that history and culture that gets passed down. It gives us this incredible glimpse into who we were. But what happens when progress threatens to submerge that heritage forever? I mean, even when there's an abundance of history, every single piece is just so precious. Well, to stop that from happening, a huge international campaign was started. And the plan? It was wild. They wanted to take a temple apart and then reassemble it somewhere else, just to spare it from destruction. In a totally different city, there was another fight going on, a plan to relieve terrible traffic. But you guessed it, a piece of history was in the way. So this urban congestion led to a pretty straightforward, kind of brutal plan. Just demolish the historic building. But for the local community, saving it was absolutely crucial. And that sparked this enormous effort to find a different solution. So with those ideas in mind, let's see how they actually pulled it off. And now for the main event. Let's get into two absolutely daring rescue missions where history itself was hanging in the balance. Now check this out. What I love about this is how it shows the exact same problem playing out in two completely different parts of the world. Over in Egypt, you have these ancient sacred temples threatened by a new dam. Then in Taiwan, a beloved historic train station threatened by a new metro system. And in both cases, the proposed solution was simple: get rid of them. So let's start in Egypt. The country really needed the Aswan High Dam to control the Nile's flooding. That makes total sense for progress. The problem was, the massive lake the dam would create was going to completely swallow the magnificent Abu Simbel temples. So a campaign led by UNESCO stepped in and basically said, no way. This piece of world heritage cannot be lost. So how on earth did they save it? The solution was just mind-boggling. They decided to cut the entire temple complex into 16,000 massive stone blocks. Just try to picture that for a second. A sacred ancient site being carefully sliced up into a giant 16,000-piece puzzle. And here's how they did it, step by step. First, the global plan was set. The temples had to move. Second, that
unbelievable deconstruction began. Third, every single one of those blocks was transported to higher ground. And finally, in one of the most incredible engineering feats ever, they put the entire puzzle back together again, perfectly safe from the rising water. Okay, now let's jump over to Kaohsiung, Taiwan. The city was choking on traffic and desperately needed a new underground system. But the historic railway station, a place just full of memories for the whole community, was sitting right in the path of construction. The official plan, knock it down. But the people said no. So, if the Egyptians moved their treasure in thousands of pieces, how did they do it in Taiwan? Well, they decided to move it all at once. Yeah, we're talking about lifting and sliding a building that weighs 3,500 tons. To put that in perspective, that's like moving over 500 adult elephants all at the same time. The method they used was just as clever. First, they built these massive tracks leading to the building's new spot. Then they lifted the entire thing up. And then for 17 straight days, they slowly slid the station to its new home just 6 meters a day. In the end, the mission was a total success. They didn't just save a building, they saved all the memories inside it. So after hearing about these two incredible rescue missions, what's the ultimate lesson here? What's the big takeaway from all this? I think it's captured perfectly in this quote. A balance can be struck. It's not an either-or choice. It's not progress or preservation. These stories prove that with enough creativity, enough determination, and a real respect for our past, we can absolutely have both. All right, we have covered a lot of ground, so let's put it all together and really lock in the key lessons from these two amazing stories. Okay, so what's the core principle? Well, it's that our heritage is vital to who we are today. And progress, as important as it is, doesn't have to mean destroying our irreplaceable treasures. At the end of the day, with careful planning and a lot of effort, development and preservation really can go hand in hand. So let's recap. In Egypt, the Aswan High Dam was about to flood the Abu Simbel temples. But instead of letting that happen, a huge international team took them apart, moved them, and rebuilt them on higher ground, saving a priceless piece of our shared human history. And in Taiwan, a brand new transit system was set to demolish the beloved Kaohsiung railway station. But instead, engineers moved the entire 3,500-ton building. It's just powerful proof that when we decide to invest in these thoughtful, creative solutions, we get to keep the best of our past while we build a better future. And all of this leaves us with one final question to think about. Just look around your own community, your own city. What landmarks, what places, what pieces of your shared story are worth fighting to preserve for the next generation? Thanks so much for joining me.
Want to speak English better and boost your exam scores? Summary training makes it happen.